How to become a poet? Maybe that will work as levity. First, make sure you're born in a foreign country, part of a big family. Try for a middle spot. Not too close up front for parents to have expectations, but not too far back to be overly indulged. Develop as early as possible an artistic bent. Not really important, but it might help making you pay attention to things noticed by no one else. Read as much as you can, all kinds of things. Anything you can get your hands on, especially material that has nothing to do with school. Pulp magazine and scraps of all periodicals about your country's immigrant community in America before they're used as wrappings at your father's grocery store, if your father happens to have it. Also, strange books without covers or visible titles, so that the story's wonder may stay bottom years later. Admit to an aspiration for a teaching career, so that the neighbor's older son can make fun of it. Express an interest in becoming a painter, and jump at your father's offer to pay tuition if you agree to enroll in a school for decorators. And if you try to find out what decorators do, that would be a good sign, for it means you are already paying attention to what words mean. Then, soon after you embark on a design career, drop everything and move to a faraway country, preferably one of which you don't know the customs and don't speak the language. Go to school and also get a job. Keep reading. Years later, study painting and be serious about it until you can paint no more, until you hit the monolith of truth, and then watch as language grows and expands, taking over your life, while it blooms into poetry and demands its due, and you'll be happy then to pay the price. This method is guaranteed to make you a poet, but not necessarily a good one. How are we doing with time? Okay. Doubting the word. If we doubt the name, on what foundation can we then build language we can trust? He asks. We're having this conversation in absentia. He doesn't know it yet. Or if you can't trust the word, what then? Well, isn't that the point? That you can't quite trust the word, meaning always keeps shifting and language evolves. Have to keep on making it all up as we go, again and again, sometimes getting it right, and sometimes, especially when lucky or crafty or modern, by getting it wrong and doing a Gordian knot. We translate from then to now, knowing all translation is only approximation at best. We receive the word, any word, even the word, perhaps on faith, somewhat at face value, and pass it through the alembic of personal experience, keeping in mind the inevitable discount. We try to get back to first writings, trying to get to an original, therefore sterling meaning. The very word try, implying actually getting to, is nearly impossible, at least in this kind of verbal formulation. Achilles and the tortoise all over again. It's either the work of the one God, or the polytheism of multiple versions, the infinity of that house of mirrors. And if indeed this is about meaning, how can we seriously talk about meaning in a fractal world? I started paying attention to words and attempting poetry rather late in my life. And then my nephew went into poetry. That time went into English literature and got into poetry. And I was joking with him. He was the first in the family who got into the poetry business. So anyhow, he told me about friends of his that were reading, and I started going to the reading and said, see, what's this poetry all about? So this is about that experience. Poetics. Some poets use a strange language, their poetry crafted in some foreign English, somewhat arbitrary as far as he can tell, esoteric, elliptical. Persistently he tries to find the key, reading their chaps, going where the readings are, and there getting occasional sparks of recognition, most of the time groping in deep fog, suddenly coming to a patch of clear, brilliant sunshine, cows in pastures, trees, far rivers shimmer, then just a suddenly fog again. Except it doesn't quite feel like that. There is opacity. Their words, clever at times, seem to be pointing at nothing he can see. There comes brief thinning. There is a hint of meaning. Faces appear, postures, vaguely familiar arguments and tropes. Sometimes he thinks he sees himself. Then a sudden thickening, and again, Visu bears a very different sensibility. Not for the talking. Not for the talking to another human being, neither for listening to another human being talk to you. He never had thought much of conversation. He was more the silent kind. She definitely was not, and that's another thing. Besides, their talk was often at cross purposes. What it was all about then was the touch, pure, mute, animal touch, not necessarily the touch of the animal within, although that occasionally did happen too, and it was great when it did, but speechless, skin-to-skin contact. The need on both sides to touch and to be touched, akin to an artistic need for some uncomplicated body pressure, impersonal, disembodied, a kind of centering, assurance at the cellular level that all is well with the world, when obviously precious little was. 2. She used to tell him, "I love you," often, still does, and he would not offer it back, although he knew it was expected, required even. But that particular word sequence had held no currency with him, carried no charge. It was mouthing words, a kind of line. He used to resent having to use it under duress, to keep her happy, see all is well. It wasn't that he felt no feeling, but in his mind the words just didn't measure up, stayed dangling, unconnected, false, opaque formulations in another language. That was a mystery to him. How can smart women rely so much on words, such a dependence? You want to yell at them. Forget what I don't say, just listen to what I do. Writ on stone. There are some people who won't shy from telling you how things are. They know. They have studied the odds and have arrived at the average truth, which is for them the truth, and therefore the truth for everyone. Such people put too much trust on usually. But other people will only tell you how things look from where they stand, will offer no claims of universality. Those are the only people I believe. Searching for strange. It's Sunday morning in his one dark blue suit, the time being still when Sunday best is worn on Sunday. He rides the green from terminal to terminal, from his old grammar school to Philellinon, walks to the antique Russian basilica laid askew in the square, where the familiar Orthodox liturgy is enacted in a language he does not understand. The chanting, vaguely Byzantine but different. The white-haired old deacon with a wooden leg hobbling from icon to icon, swinging the tinkling censer, the well-known rite made otherwise, with his intoning the ancient prayers, starting the chant down deep, way below the start of the common register, his deepest bass voice filling the high interior darkness and rising in imperceptible gradations. Gospodi pomiluj, ste eleison. Years later, he's come to miss the high ritual, but he has found faith alternately too convenient and too inconvenient. And I will end with this one. Signs, 2009. Signs all through the countryside declare, Polite to paron, the present is for sale, or the present is being sold right now, this very moment, even while you're reading this. There seems to be a general agreement here. So many signs must mean some critical mass, the people's voice. Sign of the times as well as a sign of things to come. A very inauspicious sign indeed, for it means the future can't be far behind. These vivid colors of the classical landscape, do they imply or do they hide the tragic gap, the wound, the violent slant of the brush stroke, cancelling everything in a slash? And how did we become so callous, so indifferent, so far beyond redemption? Thank you.